him to do some specific programming, and I ended up, working with him as he was developing sounds for Michael. And that was my first go-round with that. And then the second one was a couple of years later when the History project was being done. I think they hired every programmer on the planet for that one, so I was just among many. But I also contributed to that project as well.
Was it challenging and difficult, or was it smooth?
It was very unusual, because what we would get is we would never meet Michael. Our stuff was presented to him in private meetings, and then he would say, "This sounds promising, follow up with this," or I'm really looking for angry, or I'm really looking for this, or I'm really looking for that. And then that's what we had to work with. So I think that it was kind of a shotgun approach towards creating sound. It would have been better for me to show up in the studio and say, "Okay, Michael, here, it could be like this, or do you want me to change it like, how does that sound? Is this, well, what about this?" It would have been faster and more efficient, but I mean, he had his own way of working, I guess.
I would imagine that doing it remotely without the direct input would take longer and probably could be more frustrating, both for the artist and for the people working for that artist, correct?
Well, you know what? I mean, there's a concept in music called musique concrète, which is where people take finished items of sound and then they assemble them into something that's new. Even rap music these days is often taking recordings from other people that never even had any input into the artist's world at all, and it's assembled into something that is art-like. So I'm not going to say it's not possible, but I agree with you that it would have been a lot easier for me if it had been a one-on-one situation. But I'm honored to have participated in that all, of course.
And what a legacy he left behind.
Oh my goodness! And he was the real thing. I mean, if you've seen "This Is It," which is his final.
I have the DVD.
Yeah, so you know what I mean. It is that he knew what he wanted, and he got the players who could really deliver it for him, and he directed them and iteratively went back and forth to get what he needed. And that's the magic of the musical experience, particularly in a group setting, where you have these minute changes that people are making in real time, and then you come out with something that's amazing. These days, with the technology, everything is, everybody's sitting at their laptops, and rarely are people getting together and really playing anymore. But I think that's going to come back. I think that's changing.
Do you think that iTunes has hurt the music industry? I know it's a tough question because it's helped so many people, right, have access to music. But do you think it's hurt the business of being an artist?
I can't lay that at the feet of Apple Computer. I mean, I really think that the problem with the music industry started well before the technology became a problem.
Right, and I'm an Apple lover. I'm not blaming Apple either, but I'm just wondering if that technology in general and the internet, the ability to go on and get music and rip music, has hurt the financial development of many artists around the world.
As I was starting to say, I think this problem started well before the technology got there, and I think it really came down to a lack of imagination. There was a business change that happened in the music industry when suddenly it became a Wall Street darling. When the money, they became publicly traded companies, and the people who ended up running the companies were more interested in this quarter's profits than they were in the music that was behind them. In the old days, the president of Capitol Records cared about the music deeply. In the more 20 years ago, when that shift happened, they were no longer interested. They were interested in this quarter. So there was no artist development anymore. It became almost a manufacturing type approach where they would manufacture a bunch of music and throw it all at the market and see what stuck, and that didn't would go away. And that's the way that they would approach it. It wasn't like, well, this is a great artist, and if we develop this artist properly, then they'll have a market for the next 30 years. They weren't thinking in those terms anymore. So I think the problems of the music industry financially can be traced to that time of the management of those companies no longer really investing in what the art was about. And I think that was the sad moment. The internet came along with a great excuse for the record companies to say, well, we can't make anything because everybody's downloading. Well, I used to record music off of FM radio on cassette, and I didn't buy a lot of music, but I recorded a lot onto cassette, and I would listen to it for years. And I'm sure you
did. A lot of people did. Absolutely. Listening used to be such a great thing. It still is, but it used to be such a different space to share and listen to music and then go buy the album.
Yeah. And it was, music had a different place. I think, I'm 54 years old. So for me, music was everything. And I'm not sure that that's true anymore for a lot of younger folks. I still think it has a great deal of resonance for them as well.
Don't you think it's kind of neat now, though, that we live at a time, Ben, when a musician, an artist can create their own look on a CD, they can cut their own tracks, they can make their own music, package themselves, put it out there, and let the public help move their music?
I think it's extraordinary. And I'm a total believer in the technologies that we've surrounded ourselves.
I think it's exciting.
It is a two-edged sword.
Yes.
I'll explain the two-edged sword. Yes, there are those of us who have committed our lives to making music and to becoming excellent at that. That's what our life is about. And then there are those people that want to do music because they want to be loved by their friends or by some audience. And both are perfectly acceptable excuses for being creative. But when the tool set is so accessible, then what ends up happening is there's such a deluge of creative product that the good stuff doesn't even get heard now. And that's in large part. And that's the sad part of it to me, is that great music goes unheard.
That can also be said for talk radio and television. Anybody with a microphone can just speak and they're a show host. That's actually not true. But it's true now, and you don't really have to be introspective. You don't have to be entertaining. But you can just download, and that's considered being a host of a show. So
I agree, but I think now let me give you the end of the story, because the end of the story is not yet happened. And the end of the story is that because everybody can do it, if every 14-year-old can make a CD, and they do, and they should, by the way, then quality will ultimately make its way to the top.
I agree.
And I am a believer in that. Maybe that's my leap of faith, that if you do really, really good work, that it will find an audience. And now the technology allows for that audience to discover you. Because what you said, the miracle of technology is the miracle of technology.
Exactly.
And of interconnecting between like-minded souls is something that we can do now on such a level of magnitude beyond what we were capable of doing, even if we had a huge mailing budget. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
We can really reach people, and I just think that we have to accept the responsibility of what that means, and we have to accept the blessing that is. And in time, quality will float to the top. It's a nonlinear. It's a random access world, you know.
Yes.
And in a random access world, you don't have to wade through the stuff that you don't like very much. You can really pretty much get to the good stuff pretty quickly.
And music lives in the quantum field, too. So if we understand the quantum realm, we know how quickly things can move, particularly music, anything vibrational and sonic. My question to you now is, what are your greatest challenges in the here and now that you are comfortable to share with us?
Well, it's survival, of course. Survival is a part of what that's as my friend David Newman says, is a root chakra issue. So I have to address my root chakra issues. And so, you know what? I actually feel really blessed right now. As difficult as the world is right now for so many people, and there are a lot of really good people being hurt right now.
I know.
And it's a difficult time. But even so, I think that there's a great promise that's encoded in the midst of all of this, where we are refocusing, we are recalibrating. It's a moment of recalibration I keep saying to my friends.